Professor Deepak Kumar. He is a professor in School of Physical Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University. He obtained his PhD from University of Pennsylvania in 1972. His areas of interest are condensed matter physics, statistical mechanics, and foundation of quantum mechanics. He has worked extensively in quantum many-body physics, magnetism, superconductivity, and correlated electron systems, phase transitions and critical phenomena, non-equilibrium systems, and pattern formation, disordered systems, and transport theory, as it appears his versatile interest. He has won numerous awards and honors, including Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Physical Science in 1988 and Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship in 78 to 79. He is a fellow of Indian Academy of Science since 1987 and Senior Associate of Abdus Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics since 1986. This short introduction, I invite Professor Deepak Kumar.
Thanking the organizers for inviting me. So, I'm going to describe a proposal for making a quantum network. This work is in progress. So, the title of the talk, what you see here, I'd like to explain all these terms and show you how this network is going to work. So, motivation is very obvious. Finding viable and scalable quantum networks is one of the primary goals of research in quantum information processing. A quantum network consists of nodes connected by channels in an array. The nodes are used to store quantum states like qubits and process them locally, and channels are used to carry information, create entanglement among these nodes, etc. So, since early days in this area, very naturally, a number of proposals have been made based on different physical systems like optical systems, NMR, trapped ions, quantum dots, Josephson junctions, and still more. So, what we have been thinking about is to consider a system consisting of low loss electromagnetic cavities, each containing a trapped atom and connected by optical fibers. So, atomic states are used for qubits, and quantum information is carried by photons which interact with them in the cavities and move in the fibers. So, the outline of the talk is presented here. First, I will give you the basic elements of the network, that is how, what is there in each node, and then describe what the coupling does by just first discussing the example of two such cavities coupled by a fiber. Each cavity of course contains an atom. Then we will go on and look at a network in which we have a large number of nodes connected by a set of fibers. So, I will describe this dark state manifold, which is kind of central to our scheme, and then I will describe how we can use this for quantum processing. For instance, I will show you how one can transfer a state from one node to another, which may be far in the network, how one can create Bell states and multi-site entanglements. So, after giving these schemes, I will discuss numerical results for chains and rings. Here, so far we have done only small systems, and we are hoping to get more interesting results with bigger networks. Lastly, I will discuss certain other aspects which have not been covered, like effect of dissipation in these systems, what are its particular advantages, and finally what are the limitations, because there is no system which is perfect, so one needs to recognize all these aspects. Okay. So we begin with an atom in a cavity. So we have an atom which has been trapped by laser fields and is put inside a low loss electromagnetic cavity. So that is the schematic diagram, and the figure shows 3 levels of the atom. 3 atomic levels are of relevance to us. 2 levels, A0, A1, are with large lifetime. They are like almost like ground states and are nearly degenerate. And there is an excited level B, and this is called a lambda configuration. The electromagnetic mode inside the cavity is one of them is coupled very strongly to the transition A1 to B, that is, it's near resonance. There's of course, we don't want things to be at resonance, so there is a gap there, which is denoted by delta between frequency and the level difference. Okay, this is by a Rabi frequency G, and what works in the limit when G is much greater than kappa, where kappa is the decay rate of the cavity mode. So ought to have a stronger coupling. So these are strongly coupled regimes. The atom is also subjected to a control laser which couples to the transition A0B. This coupling is given by the Rabi frequency omega, which I have written as time dependent because for quantum processing we will make it time dependent in a slow way. Okay. So I give one example on which a lot of experiments have already been performed in these cavity systems. There is cesium atom with hyperfine levels which are given by this 6s half state with f equal to 3 and 4 serve as A0, A1, and 6p half with f equal to 3 which serves as B. The Hamiltonian of the system is easily written because we are just considering only one electromagnetic mode of the cavity, which is described by this Hamiltonian. C dagger C is the creation operator, creation and annihilation operators for cavity mode, and this is the Hamiltonian of the atom. So it just runs over these 3 levels. Okay. Then we have to discuss the coupling of the atom with the cavity mode, and cavity mode causes these. It's just one interaction is important. It can take the atom from B level to A1 with the emission of the cavity photon, or one can go from A1 to B by absorbing the cavity mode. Okay, and this is the interaction of the external laser with the atom, and this laser only couples A0 and B modes, and this coupling is just being described classically because laser power is quite strong, and you can treat this interaction classically. So one doesn't quantize this laser interaction. Okay. And delta is this, so the delta is this offset, and it is taken to be equal for G and omega t. So this is called Raman resonance. Okay. So we will work in this. So the control here is provided by the power of the external laser, which influences omega. So what we would do is we will take omega to be time dependent, but we will vary it in a slow manner, which is called adiabatic manner, and that will provide us the basic control for quantum processing. If we look at this Hamiltonian, what one can do is one can work in this sector. Each of these sectors with a given photon number like n is closed by this in this Hamiltonian. So for example, one can have A0n, then that we get coupled to A1 n plus 1, and then back to B. So the whole Hamiltonian is just closed in this set of states. So an Hamiltonian is given by G, and I have not written Gn, but Gn is given in terms of the Rabi frequency G that we talked here, and photon number, square root of the photon number. Okay. So this Hamiltonian is just a very simple Hamiltonian, and it's very straightforward to work out its eigenvalues for any n, but what we will do is we'll consider the case n equal to 0, so, and we'll see the reasons for that. So there are three eigenvalues which are sort of shown here. These are the things. So it's straightforward algebra. And what is very interesting is the set of eigenmodes. So there is a U1 mode, U2, U3. Okay. So the mode of interest to us is the U1 mode. It does not involve the excited level B at all, only A0, A1, which are the two lower levels. And so it's just a simple like that. The other two modes involve B as well as A0, A1. Theta, which is very crucial to note, is just given by G and omega, that is these two coupling things. This is the mode coupling, and this is the external laser coupling, and this is this. So the eigenstate U1 is called the dark state. It is called the dark state because it does not involve the excited level, which can emit photon. So it just it doesn't. So since the excited level has a short lifetime because it has a spontaneous decay, U1 is long-lived, and this is the state that we will use for quantum memory and for the rest of the manipulation in this network. So if we vary the power of the control laser slowly in comparison to the energy differences, see, remember, tan theta is given by that, and the idea is to vary the power of the control laser slowly in comparison to other different energy differences which are given by these two energy differences in the eigenvalues. The adiabatic principle tells us that the state U1 will change adiabatically without making transitions to other states. So this adiabatic transfer is really at the heart of our scheme. So when we change omega, what we are doing is we are changing this angle tan theta. So for large omega, for this omega much bigger than g, theta is small, and when omega goes towards 0, theta goes towards pi by 2. As a result of which, what one can do is U1 can be made to move from state A00 to A11. So that's the adiabatic transfer that we are going to exploit. So that is what I have written here. If we decrease omega t from a large value towards 0, theta goes from 0 to pi by 2, U1 goes to from A00 to A1, and vice versa. And in fact, by adjusting the ratio of g and omega, any value of theta can be obtained, and any linear combination of these two states can be externally obtained. So now the next key point of the scheme is this, that we are working in off resonance. If we look at the equations of motion, one finds that the coefficient, the amplitude for B is fast varying, and it can be adiabatically eliminated from the equations of motion. So that's a reasonable approximation. And if you do this, again that's a straightforward manipulation because these matrices are all very small. There are just 3 equations of motion. One arrives for the remaining 2 levels this kind of effective Hamiltonian. Then what we want to do is that we want to eliminate these diagonal terms. Okay, A0, A0. These are called Stark shifts. Because of the external coupling, the levels have shifted a little. But if we couple both A0 and A1 to another set of levels by additional lasers, okay, that is, we shine two other lasers on which couple to A0 and A1 and compensate, because one can, by adjusting the sign of resonance, we can compensate the shift, that is, and bring them back both to 0. Then so that is how we will work. We will assume that these other lasers are also switched on, and the Stark shifts are cancelled, so that our effective Hamiltonian for this two-level system is just this off-diagonal term. So in these terms, this is a particularly simple Hamiltonian for a single atom. It just describes the transitions from A0 to A1 or A1 to A0 and emission of the cavity photon. So now I want to discuss how if we couple the two cavities by a fiber, what happens to the physics of the problem. Okay, so this is the simple scheme. So we look at the Hamiltonian. So firstly, it just describes the individual Hamiltonians of the two cavities, which are just this in now. Sj, I have just used a simple symbol for describing this coupling, which we had arrived after adiabatic elimination of the third level. Sj is just this, G omega J delta J. And then the second term is the coupling of the two cavities to the fiber. So here C1, C2 are the cavity modes, F12 is the photon mode for the fiber, and again we take only one mode of the fiber. So the photon from the cavity can go into the fiber and to either of the cavities, from either of the cavities, and similarly go back. So that's very straightforward. Okay. Now if you, one can again, this is again a rather simple system, not too many states are involved. What one finds is, when one looks at its idea, its eigenvalues, and I have not written all the eigenvalues and eigenfunctions, but simple examination of the whole problem, even without elimination, shows that there is one mode which is very interesting. This mode in this interaction representation has zero energy, and it is given by this. So let me just sort of go over these states slowly with you. So A00, A10. So here A0 is the state of the atom in cavity 1. 0 is the, of course, number of the cavity mode. Similarly that 0 and next F states the photon number in the fiber. So A00, A10, 0, then A10, A10, 1, the photon is in the fiber, and then A10, 1, A002, 0, 5. This mode also, it's an eigenmode, but it doesn't involve any states which have photon in the cavity. So one can again regard it as a kind of dark state. And now remember, S1, S2 are the combinations of coupling which involve the laser power omega 1 and omega 2. So they are like control, they provide us with the control on the variation of the magnitudes of S1 and S2. Let me show you. S1, S2 are just this. So variations of S and omega are somewhat identical because both the other two parameters are more or less fixed for the problem. Okay. So, with this control, we can prepare an atom, we can prepare atom 1 in A0 and atom 2 in A1. Then we change the controls laser intensities omega 1t, which means S1, and omega 2t, and do a state transfer from this state where now I have suppressed the photon numbers A0 A1 to A1 A0. Okay? So this can be done if we, as S1 goes from small to large and S2 goes from large to small. And same thing is done vice versa. Of course, a third state is also involved. Okay? That also comes in, but at least this transfer can be done. That state is not affected by change of S1, S2. And in fact, if W is larger than S1 and S2, then any linear combination between these can be generated. In fact, in a purer form. Okay? So this was recognized quite early in this game in this paper by Palizari, and we have, I mean, this is just the summary of his work that I have described. Okay. So our work is now to carry this forward to arrays. So we consider a square array. So all these blue circles are nodes and lines are these fibers. So they are coupled like this. You can put more coupling, less couplings, whatever. But to begin with, we can look at this kind of lattice. Okay. So the Hamiltonian, as generalized from the two cavity case, is like this. So first line is again the Hamiltonian of a single node at all the possible nodes, and then we have couplings. Then we can have transfer of cavity photons into fibers and back. So there are, of course, I have denoted fibers along x-axis to be xi's and yi's. Okay. So that just is the statement of that kind of coupling. So I plus delta x denote the right and upper neighbors of the sites I, and that way you can cover all the sites in the system. Okay. Now the complete basis set for the wave function of this system is given by this. So you specify the atomic state in each cavity, the number of photons in each cavity, and number of photons in each fiber. Okay, so number of fibers and fiber links is B, and so number of cavities is A. So that's of course obvious thing to do. Okay, from this Hamiltonian it is quite apparent that this quantity which I have written is mu I takes, sorry I didn't say mu I here takes value 0 and 1, so A is standing for E0, A1. So if you write this, if you just note that this quantity M is 1 minus mu I just gives you the number of A0s, number of atoms in A0 states, and sum over Ni plus Mb is the number of photons. So that is what is conserved. And we will first talk about M equal to 1 sector. Since it is this is conserved, one can work in various sectors of M. So we look at M equal to 1 sector. So in this sector, out of n atoms, all of them except one can be A0. So first state is in which all atoms are in state A1. One of them is in A0, so that gives you 1, and there are no photons anywhere. In the second one, all atoms are in state A1 and there is one cavity photon and no fiber photons. And then you can have a photon in the fiber, and all states are, all atomic states are. So those are the only possibilities for the wave function in this sector. So that is why it becomes particularly easy to analyze. Okay, so one can write the equations of motion for these coefficients of the wave function, and they are easily seen here, and they are just given by this. Now it so turns out that we can again find states corresponding to zero energy, which we are now going to call dark states. We find that this system has a large number of dark states, and the dark state is given by this. If you apply, for example, the Hamiltonian operator on this state, it just gives you 0. And this dark state is on a link. It is exactly like the two cavity mode. So let me just take you through this. So let's say the I and I plus delta are two nodes connected by a fiber. So there is one state with coefficient 1 over Si in which I atom is in A0, all others are in A1. And then the next state of the combination is I plus delta, one of the neighbors of I is in A0, all others are in A1, and fiber is all empty. And then there is third state which is combined with this, in which the photon has entered the fiber in between these two nodes. So that's it. These are the nodes. So the number of these dark states equals the number of fiber links in the lattice. So we have a huge degeneracy for a large network. I mean, depends on n. N-fold, NB-fold, where NB is the number of fiber links in this system. They all have same energy, and they are all manipulable by external controls of laser powers. So I have written it in a more simple form without mentioning the number of cavity photons. So that is what this state looks. And you can see one can, for example, vary the relative magnitudes of Si and Si plus delta and do the transfer of A0 from site I to I plus delta, vice versa, create a linear combination. So we have here a manifold of dark states, all of the same energy. Okay, they don't contain any component which has photons in the cavity. So this is the basis for the manipulations that can be done in this network. So what we'll now next show is, by slow variation of intensities of control lasers, a number of quantum operations can be carried out, and all the processes can be externally controlled. The examples of the processes that can be accomplished, we haven't explored all of them, and we believe there are many more that can be done, but at least these I will now show you. That is, first is transfer of state across the network. Suppose we start in a state in which atom 1 is in state A0, all others are A1, then we can carry it to any other site I, arbitrarily far site I in the network. Then we can transfer a qubit. So the qubit, the computational qubit in this scheme will have to be a set of two cavities. Right. Did I mention that? Yeah. Right. So a qubit is not a single node, but a set of two nodes, neighboring nodes. So we can we can go from a given excitation on one qubit to any other elsewhere. We can create Bell states. We can start with A0 and then create these kinds of combinations in which the state A0 exists at two sites. Then we can also have three-state entanglements. And So these are the kinds of things that we can do. The dynamics, that is how, though our simple analysis of looking at the dark states gives us these ideas, the potential, but we really cannot study the dynamics as we vary the coefficients SI because they are part of the Hamiltonian. And also the states Dij's are not orthogonal, they are all overlapping. Okay? So we again one has to study the full set of equations of motion which I had written down in 3-4 slides back and see whether what we can sort of estimate or surmise from the study of dark states whether that is actually true or not. So here this is the simplest system that we studied. We just have a set of 3 nodes coupled by 2 fibers, okay, and so we have 3 control lasers with powers omega 1, omega 2, omega 3, other Rabi frequencies. So for example, if we vary, if we keep omega 3 constant and change omega 1 from large to small, omega 2 from small to large, what we do is we can bring the amplitude A2 square to 0 and raise A1 square, which is the transfer that was already there for 2 cavity, but now we say we will show that it can happen even in the larger system in a controlled way. In the third case, what we do is we take both, we change both, we begin with both omega 1 and omega 3 large and omega 2 small, so that initial state of the system is in A2. A2 is this state where A0 state is on second node, okay, is 1. And when we do this, what we get is this, that A2 goes to 0 and A1 and A3 become equal and half. So that we have created a kind of Bell state. Okay. Now we look at a slightly larger system, that's a ring of 4 sides. Okay. And so again, the states of relevance to us, of course there are many more states that are there, but for our purpose we just write these states. There are lots of other photon states which we don't mention here because they are nearly 0. Okay, so if we write the wave function like this and just focus on these amplitudes of the actual wave function, then you see here what we start with is omega 2 is large and we make it 0. At the same time we make omega 1 large and then drop 0. While we are dropping omega 1, we are increasing omega 3 and dropping that. Then we do omega 2 and we just follow this protocol. And then what we see is that to begin with, the only A1 is large, then the system shifts to A2, that is 1, so all the A0 is there. Then it becomes A3, A4, and then we can bring it back to A1. So we can just consecutively transfer this state to various sites in a controlled manner by following a certain protocol, and obviously one can stop it somewhere and get superpositions, which we show next. Here we show how a 3-node state with 2 equal amplitudes can be generated and how it can be shifted from site to site. So here in this protocol, to begin with, our omega 3 and omega 4 are large and omega 1 and omega 2 are small. Then 4 is being made 0 and 1 is being raised, and you can see. Then at the end 2 is being raised and 3 is being lowered. So if we follow this kind of protocol, then you to begin with, we had both A1 and A2. The system was equal mixture of A0 being on A1 and A2. So wave function, let me remind you, is being like that. So those two states were present, and then we got into a situation where we have A2 present, but A1 and A3 have also come with equal amplitude. And then next state is A1 is present with amplitude with probability half, and A2 and A4 with 1 by 4. And then A2 is half, A3, A4 is. So you can play with this game and get a number of interesting states if you know what to do with them. So here, to give you this fourth example, we transfer a Bell state to a different set of sites on the ring. So here, we have a Bell state to, for example, it is on, it is on 2 and 3, then it goes to 1 and 3, from 2 and 3 it goes to 1 and 3, and then 2 and 4. Yes. So here we are wearing two lasers together, right? You can see 3 and 1 are small, 2 and 4 are large. Both of them are being made larger and smaller together, and one can do this transfer. So having demonstrated this, though in somewhat small systems, I go on to discuss the effects of dissipation, because that's obviously the key feature and deciding factor whether a quantum network is viable or not. So three sources of dissipation are spontaneous decay of the level B, decay of photon in the cavity mode, decay of photons in the fibers. So the one big advantage of this scheme is that the excited level is not a part of the states involved in the quantum process. So we are working in with a dark state which doesn't have B. Of course, this assumes that when we do change the control laser powers, there is a adiabatic transfer. That is, the state continues to deform adiabatically without making transitions to higher states. That is what the meaning of adiabatic transfer. But of course that can happen only if the changes are infinitesimally small. So in principle, when control laser power is varied, some non-adiabatic effects do occur. But I said their effect can be minimized. In fact, we have done a detailed calculation in another piece of work where we show what are the kind of power levels which are slow enough or rates slow enough to achieve good adiabatic transfers. So I am not going to that kind of calculation. Okay. Second part, the effect of decay mode is also minimized in this scheme, as again the dark states used in the intercavity transfer of states involve only states with zero number of photons in the cavity. Okay? Again, same criticism applies that, right, we are working in that dark state, but as we change laser powers, there is bound to be some transfer to the excited states. So within the adiabatic assumption and slow variations, this decay is also minimized. Decay of photons in fibers, of course, is not is certainly present, and it does pose a bigger problem for this scheme. So this loss should be minimized by having high quality and short fibers. So we haven't looked at the dissipation aspects in great detail, but we have analyzed the system in the framework given by Palizari, which comes from this continuous measurement theory formalism. Okay, so this continuous measurement theory formalism, in this framework, one can write a non-Hermitian Hamiltonian and study the effects of dissipation. Okay, here one assumes that the photons are not being lost in the sense of being lost to the environment, but they are being continuously monitored. And one can just write in a selected part of the Hilbert space a Hamiltonian like this. So this is what I have written. So our effective Hamiltonian then acquires these parts. Okay, gamma is the rate of spontaneous decay of the atom from the excited level. So it becomes imaginary. Naturally, it introduces dissipative effects. Fiber, then there is a cavity decay mode, which is given by this term, and there is a fiber decay mode, which is given by this term. So one can modify the equations of motion, which I had written for those coefficients A, B, Fx, Fy, etc., and put in these terms and do the numerical computations. Okay, so these were done, and I think so. Okay. So, for example, for the three-node network, where we discuss the state transfer and creation of Bell states, what we find is, so we start with atom in 1 in A0 state and want to go to atom 1 in, this is in in 2, atom A0, atom 2 in A0. So you can see that amplitude obtained is not quite 1, but there is some loss, but it's not very high. And similarly here, when we create a Bell state, starting from state in 1, state 2, and 1, 3, we find that the amplitudes are a little less than half. Again, the effect of dissipation, which doesn't seem killing to us. It's pretty okay. But of course, this question should be analyzed in a better framework with a density matrix, etc. So which we haven't done yet. Okay. So let me now come to other advantages aside from the effects of dissipation. The transformations to desired states in other schemes require a precise control on the time of Hamiltonian evolution. Okay, so that you have to control the time, because the Hamiltonian evolution is unitary and the desired state is achieved only at a particular instant. But here, all steps of the processing are externally controlled. All the states have same energy, so there is no phase lag, etc. And since there are a lot of dark states, degenerate states, there is a large flexibility in doing the operations, as all the involved states have the same energy. And of course, I have already discussed the effects of dissipation. Now let me come to limitations, and some of these limitations should be overcome, and we are working on that. But see, quantum mechanics, all that I have described is one photon in the entire network. So that is n equal to 1 sector. If you write wave functions for sectors greater than 1 and for them greater than 1, then the state space just becomes too large to handle even numerically. So that can't be worked out easily. So this limits the kind of states within M equal to one sector. The states are only like this, 1, 1, 0. There's only 1, 0 if I ignore the photon numbers, like that. So 0 to be placed anywhere, and their linear combination. So the linear combination, as I demonstrated, can be multi-site. But however, if we do find that it is possible, for example, let's go back to this. It is possible to, as I said, that for quantum purposes of like quantum computation, a computing qubit consists of 2 nodes, because a dark state can take you from here to here and create any linear combination here. So what we find is that if you take these states to be isolated, okay, then there is no real interference. And again, this is being checked numerically. So in that sense, lot of other states can be generated. What is not good is you take a dark state here and an immediate neighborhood. That certainly interferes and causes a lot of problems. But when they are isolated, hopefully they will behave well and will serve a useful purpose and enlarge our space of operations. Okay, I think this is all I have to say. So thank you very much for your attention.